You know, on this channel, I don't really care all that much for talking about current events. I feel like there's enough people with much larger audiences than mine who do this. And I also think it lends to this this cycle that people who consume content seem to fall into, and content creators as well. It's all about, you know, mining for hot takes or whatever. And then the consumer will just, you know, consume, react, repeat, you know, debate who's got the hottest take or whatever. It's really just kind of an Ouroboros, as my friend Patrick would say. It's just a never-ending cycle. And I don't really like to do that on this channel. I got them tepid takes after all. You don't like them, so be it. But I am going to weigh in on something today that hit close to home for me. I want to talk about that song, Men North of Richmond. This song came onto the scene like a sort of hurricane since it was released. And I'm going to be honest with you, I like the song. I like it. I know some of my friends dislike it that I speak to fairly often online, and you know, I understand, you know. I understand. Maybe it's just not up your alley. But the song itself, I really like. I like the sound of his voice. I can hear the accent. Now this accent is put on. If you've ever heard him in an interview, we'll get to that a little bit later, but in that song you can hear the hurt of being deceived, being lied to. And it also addresses a lot of the current decline and decay that we see in this country. You know, this song hit close to home, and it actually literally kind of hit close to home. Oliver Anthony, I believe his real name is Chris Lunsford, and I don't know if he's from south of Richmond. I forget the name of the little town. He might be from there originally, but I did see on a post it said that he had went to high school in Mitchell County, North Carolina, Spruce Pine. Spruce Pine is the county seat of North Carolina. It is known as the Mineral City. There's a lot of gem mining that used to go on there. People would find amethysts, rubies, emeralds. You see, in that particular part of southern Appalachia where I'm from, we didn't have coal mining. That's more of a ridge and valley Appalachia phenomena. Here in the extreme rugged parts, there was gem mining. And Spruce Pine is just about a 45-minute drive south of where I'm from. We would play Mitchell County High School in baseball and football when I was in high school. The videos that I've made up on top of Roan Mountain, whenever I show you the North Carolina side of Roan Mountain, that is Mitchell County. It's extremely rugged. It's also poor in a lot of ways. But I thought that was interesting that he was from the area. And the song itself touches upon a lot of interesting things. It's really a simplistic sort of song, honestly. I thought it would have been interesting if it had been, I thought it could have been interesting if he would have, you know, added a few more verses discussing the disgust that he feels with things. Talked about the politicians looking out for the miners instead of all the unfortunate sort of attraction, you could say, for the miners on Epstein Island. He also talked about welfare and fat fucks that just use welfare and eat their fudge rounds. Now there I kind of disagree a little bit. Myself, I am anti-system, anti-government, anti-Semitic, all these things. But I am not opposed in the least. You know, this is something that I was raised, you know. And this is a prevalent thing in rural America, you know, the disdain and contempt for those that draw food stamps and welfare, you could say. And I'm not opposed to this. Now, what I am opposed to is if, you know, these fat fucks, they just draw welfare and they don't do anything to better themselves. But I'm not opposed to the act of drawing welfare in the least. In fact, if you're a white family, a white man, white woman, take anything that the fucking system can give you. Fuck it, man. Fuck this system. And you know, I hear the common argument, oh, it's just going to raise the taxes for everybody. Really? I mean, look at it this way. Our border is fucking porous. It's wide open. If you ain't drawing the welfare, there's some goddamn migrant from elsewhere who's up here who's going to be drawing it. You want to use that welfare to try to better yourself in some way. And you know, I mean, I can't really come out and say I advocate for this, but hey, if you can draw welfare and work under the table, more power to you. I mean, I've done it before. The only time I've ever drawn welfare was unemployment many years ago. I drew it from the state of North Carolina, but I also worked under the table. So, you know, I can't encourage you all to do that, but hey, you know, look at how expensive things are. You know, being a working class white man, while I advocate for it, and this song advocates for the working class, it's not all it's cracked up to be. Let's be real here. While I admire the tenacity and the toughness and the backbone of a lot of the working class, it's not a bed of roses. And I mean, I'm sure many of you watching this, I mean, I have a job driving a truck, and I ain't gonna lie to you, the last year it's just kind of gotten monotonous. And also the fact that I have watched everything within the last 2 years just get more and more expensive. And I'm not really making any more money. I got a kid on the way, I got a daughter on the way. It's not too easy to save money. Not in the least. So I do like the song, I have to say. And this music and this song has seemed to spark some hellacious sort of debates that I've seen on Telegram between people. You know, we see, and I mean, it's been astroturfed, you can tell. I mean, it's really taken the country by storm. You have that conservative guy, what was his name, Matt Walsh, the one that, to his credit, is against the whole Troon agenda, but I mean, then he tries to say, you know, Magnus Hirschfeld was a German, you know. Complete bullshit, complete dishonesty. I mean, he should know fucking better. There's a reason that the Germans had a problem with the you-know-whos, and Magnus Hirschfeld, pretty big fucking part of it. You know, it's just dishonesty, you could say. Absolute dishonesty. And then last night, I seen a post, I think it was by Blackpilled. Apparently, Oliver Anthony had given some sort of little interview to Fox News, and oh boy. In it, he talks about how this country was a melting pot, diversity is our strength, and you know, the typical neocon, neoliberal bullshit. And I've seen so much vitriol thrown at each other from different people talking about this. All I've got to say is I'm sort of disappointed to hear him say those things, but I'm not surprised. And that's what I want to, that's one of the points in this video I wanted to make. You know, I would consider myself a racialist, of course. I advocate for the white working class, but the white working class has so much against them right now. I'm not surprised, though, that he would say these things. Conservatism, Con Inc., Con Incorporated, is hell of a fucking drug. I mean, it really is. You know, conservatism largely is just a part, in my opinion, of liberalism. If you step back and look at the larger picture, it's just basically a foil to liberalism. It plays the fool, and it absolutely conserves nothing. You know, the old neocon line, oh, we need more immigrants than ever, but they have to come here legally. Yeah, get fucked. While the neoliberal, the leftist side, is just, hey, open borders, you know. I'm not surprised in the least, and I think that's one of the things that in these sort of racialist spheres, if you wanted to go broader, you could call it the dissident right. I don't consider myself left or right. As I've said before, that term is, I believe, starting to become archaic. But, where was I going with this? I've lost my train of thought. There's a tendency in our racialist circles. We tend to form echo circles, echo chambers, I should say. And I don't know if you can guard against this. Some people are raging about Anthony talking about diversity. Yeah, well, are you surprised? Are you really surprised? I don't honestly know what his political leanings are. To be frank, I don't really care at this moment. I do appreciate that song. And I do think that that song could be a working class sort of anthem. I would think he's conservative, but hell, who knows? I've never spoke to the guy. I don't know a whole lot about him. I knew there'd be something that I forgot to address. But I have heard some people discuss whether or not this is organic. The way that this song has vaulted, how this Oliver Anthony, he has appeared out of nowhere. Honestly, I'm not sure, to be honest. Could be that the State Department is becoming quite crafty at things. I did notice this, that on his Telegram channel, his channel was created on July the 26th. However, the first post was never made up until, I think it was maybe the day the song came out. Maybe, when was that? August the 11th or 12th? I'm not sure. But you know, I don't think it's unreasonable to question such things. I mean, the Rolling Stone, various other sort of liberal media news outlets were kvetching about this song. Maybe that's all part of the plan, though. Maybe that's all part of the facade. I don't know. Honestly, I truly don't know, and I'm not going to waste much time pondering such a question, because I have no real way to prove this. Perhaps this all is an elaborate ruse to keep the working class white man on the conservative plantation. But this view, you know, we get in these echo chambers and we tend to think that our ideas of, you could say, white nationalism, racialism, are much more widespread than they truly are. I mean, this is just the unfortunate truth. I have been guilty of this myself. And, you know, the unfortunate truth is that it seems that a lot of white people, they don't necessarily want to be white nationalists. There's a whole stigma that's attached to it. People are worried about ostracization, financial consequences, all these things. Not a lot of people, you know, it's easy to fall into this trap of thinking that our views, our opinions, our thoughts are much more widespread than they truly are. You've got to guard against this, to be honest. And, you know, liberals and leftists in their coastal cities, they try to portray a lot of, you know, a lot of the white people in flyover states as being, you know, just hotbeds of racism. And I hate to break it to you, it's not really the case. As I said, conservatism and egalitarianism is a hell of a fucking drug. You know, if racism was such a phenomenon, I'm sure I wouldn't see as many kinky-headed mulatto Generation Alpha kids running around northwest Georgia. I wouldn't see it that much. You know, unfortunately, the infection, the cancer of egalitarianism, it has affected rural America as well, even here in Appalachia. You do find some people such as myself, it's racist. But, you know, overall, you don't really see it. It's unfortunate. Anything else? You know, also, too, I hear a lot of people in this side of things talk about art. About the consumption of certain types of art. Art can certainly be subversive. But you know what? I have a broad range of taste in music that I listen to. If you was to go through like my Pandora playlist, you would find anything from Wagner, Mozart, Chopin, all the way down to classic rock like, you know, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC. You'd find Leonard Skinner. You'd also find a lot of country music, old country. I absolutely hate most new country. Most new country is just absolutely garbage. I gotta be real with you, I didn't give a shit about that Jason Aldean song, you know, Try That in a Small Town. I thought it was just soft and impotent sounding. You want a country song that seems to hit you harder. And you know, that's the thing about music. I've always determined good music is if it gives me goosebumps when I first hear it. And that's what that song Men North of Richmond did the first few times I listened to it. It hit something in me. And I think it hit something in a lot of people. But you know, some people will talk about, and I mean, going back to like my playlist, you can find old country, a lot of Waylon Jennings. I absolutely love Waylon Jennings, Merle Haggard. You know, I even like some Johnny Cash, even though, you know, he was married to a mystery meat mulatto at one time. But I do like some of his stuff. Hank Jr., Hank Sr., Hank the Third. Hell, man, you'll even find a little bit of Yellow Wolf on my playlist. That song Catfish Billy, I know it's rap music. He's a white rapper from Gadsden, Alabama. And you know, that song, Catfish Billy, I know a lot of people will probably be looking at me scratching their heads right now, but I related to that song completely during the years of meth. It's a song that sort of captures the aggression and anger, but also the nihilism of, you know, the white young men that are completely drug-addled. You know, I have a broad taste, and a lot of people are like, oh, you can't listen to this or that. Man, I will listen to whatever the fuck I please. Okay? Some people's like, oh, that's subversive, this or that. You know, you really underestimate yourself when you do deny yourself certain things, I believe. Myself, I am ideologically sound enough that I can listen to some of this stuff, some of it considered degenerate. You know, I can separate the artist from the art itself. I'm ideologically sound enough. I hear some people's like, oh, don't do this, don't do that. Man, maybe if you're just, you know, a retard and you don't have a lot of conviction in your opinions and beliefs, well, maybe you should stay away from it. But myself, I'll listen to whatever I please. I don't care. Nobody's going to tell me what to fucking do. Anything else? Yeah, I mean, are you really surprised, though, about Anthony saying these things? I'm not. and a lot of people's let down, I would suppose. I found myself mildly let down, but not surprised, you know, not in the least. But nevertheless, whatever his political, and oh yeah, about his accent. You know, when he talks in here, I have watched a few of his interviews. He sings with a different twang. More of an Appalachian, Southern Appalachian twang, I would say. Myself, my accent is, this is just how I talk. You know, I grew up in a really remote place. And, you know, a lot of people, unfortunately here in America, the uniqueness of regional dialects and accents are being eradicated. You know, this is just a product of Ameriqua. It seems like, you know, and in my life, it's like people either love my accent or they absolutely hate it. Usually it's been pretty positive. I know whenever I was younger, I'd go down to Myrtle Beach. And I'd pick up women from up in Ohio, up in Maine, Connecticut. They loved my accent. But then I've also met people that think, you know, I'm an uneducated hick and things of that nature. Doesn't really bother me. I don't really care, you know. And even if you look back in my older videos from back in 2019 and 2020, I tried to hide this accent until I realized just fuck it. I ain't hiding it. You can think of me what you will. And, you know, I seen people giving Anthony hell for, you know, singing. He didn't even, it's a fake accent. Man, this actually happens fairly common. You know, people sing in country, especially nowadays. They'll have a twang when they're singing, but sound fairly generic whenever they're just speaking in an interview. I mean, that's just how it is. Is there anything else? I'm not surprised, you know, about his diversity comments. Conservatism is a hell of a drug. It's a plantation for the white man. A mental, political sort of plantation. But just guard against thinking that your ideas are more widespread than what they really are. Overestimating yourself can prove costly sometimes. I think that's it. Thank y'all for watching. Bye-bye.